Hello and welcome to the FOGS Queenslander Podcast as we look ahead to Origin 2. Mark Braybrook joined once again by Wally Lewis, Trevor Gillmeister and Matt Gillett. Gentlemen, welcome. A couple of changes to the Queensland squad. Your thoughts, first of all, Wally?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, the selectors would have loved to have been able to go into this game with an identical side, but it's quite interesting. There'll be plenty of people south of the border suggesting that this isn't as good a Queensland side, and they're in a little bit of strife. They won't hold up against the Blues, but. Yes, it must have taken the selectors a little while to come up with this.
Well, Gilly, the key there, though, is that 1 to 13 are the same. Harry Grant there at 14. Yeah. The change is just on the bench. And
Cobbo, obviously. Yeah. That was a genius move by Bill, wasn't it? Obviously, the hammer, how good was he at fullback in the first game? So, obviously, those adjustments had to be made, and it worked out well for Bill and the selectors. So, yeah, interesting to see New South Wales with a couple of changes as well.
Yeah, the Queensland side that you can see now, as I said, same 1 through 13. Pat Carrigan there at 13, Reece Walsh back at number 1. The changes there, Matt Gillett on the bench, Felice Kafusi, who was 18th man, he'll come in and start on the bench in 16. And Kurt Capel comes in jersey number 17. He's had an injury-plagued season, I think it's fair to say, at the Warriors, but certainly adds experience on the bench.
He does. Keyword there is experience on the bench there with Felice and Capewell. Capewell's been, playing some good footy over with the Warriors, but as you said, he's had a few injuries at the start of the year, but he's going to come on there and do a job, and he can chuck him into the centres. He has done that before for Queensland and done a decent job, so obviously we're missing Cobbo there, and I'm looking there on that team list that, he might play that role if we do get an injured outside back or a HIA. I definitely think Bill's got a plan there with Kurt Capewell to do that. But some good experience there. I thought Felice played well when he had to come on the back row in that game 1. Experience off the bench is going to be key for us.
And Mark, I've got to say that experience in a game of this importance, it just can't be ever purchased. 16 and 17, Kafusi and Capel, they're going to be worth their weight in gold during the particular times of the match where pressure is going to play an enormous role. And I think that's going to give wonderful assistance, if they're on the field, to Daly Cherry Evans. Matches of this importance just cannot ever be purchased.
I'm just wondering, as we look at that side, and we'll be joined soon by Chairman of Selectors, Gene Miles, whether or not the inclusion of Dane Gagai as 18th man is based on the fact that Felice Kafusi was 18th and got a lot of game time. So maybe their mindset is, well, if we get a couple of HIAs, or we can activate Gagai anyway, and if we don't need him, well, we haven't used up a bench. We'll ask Gene about that, but I find that interesting that they've changed their mind in regards of having someone like a Cobbo on the bench in game 1. Yep. To the Cobbo-like Dane Gagai potentially as 18th man?
And, Dane, doesn't he go up 5 gears, when he plays Origin? He's been a freak in the sides that he's played in, and I'm with you. I was thinking the same thing, that obviously, and you don't know what happens during the week, you know what I mean, as well. So there'd be a few blokes in there carrying some little niggles, and New South Wales would be the same. So, yeah, I think Bill's probably just covering all bases there with Dane as well.
Well, you mentioned it about Game 2 and the importance of Game 2, particularly for New South Wales, I suppose, having lost Game 1. But for Queensland to wrap up the series before coming back to Suncorp Stadium. Gentlemen, what is the preparation like into Game 2 as opposed to Game 1? Are there any differences, or do things stay the same?
Well, I think there can be some complacency sometimes when you win Game 1, and you got that backup game, the third game, if need be. So, I mean, I think Billy will have it all, done and dusted, that type of thing. No complacency. But in the back of your mind, you might go, "Oh, okay, no dramas. We've got another game at Suncorp." You know what I mean? But there's nothing better than winning 3-0. That's just that's the bee's knees for me. That and just rubbing their nose right in it. So I don't think there'll be any complacency, but obviously New South Wales do or die. That little bit more of an edge sometimes.
Yeah, the Blues will certainly be taking a few more risks. They have to, but I often find that the team that 1-0 up in the series certainly take control onto the field. They can dangle a carrot in front of the opposition and make them come out with the with the dodgy plays. But a lot of it this time around, and I'm sure that Billy will work it out with Cherry Evans on how they want to play it. But the kicking game plays an enormous role in Game 2. The opportunity to ensure that whenever the opposition gets the ball, it's as close to their try line as possible every time. They've got to take chances, got to take risks to be able to get back to the other end of the field. So I think that certainly will also entice a lot of the big boys up front to do their jobs and do it with such a role that they're in a position of power.
Is there any difference, Matt, heading into a Game 2?
Oh, I think obviously the way our boys played and the way the game panned out, Game 1, obviously not ideal getting their send-off. So I think we touched about it post Game 1 about how Queensland's completion rate and a few errors and a few things that were behind on the stat sheet that Billy won't be happy with, and that's something that we need to fix because we know this New South Wales team is going to come down there and like we've just talked about it, they're going to do all the tricks. They're going to try and score points where they can, and then I think they've got a better team here on paper to do a job down there. But Billy will definitely be covering those finer details of where they need to improve from Game 1, and preparation's the same, nailing that training, and then getting down there and let the.
Well, I think we said, didn't we, that there was plenty of things to improve on. They had a better completion rate than we did.
Missed tackles was up there.
Exactly. We had more missed tackles than they did as well. So Billy be rubbing his hands together, saying, just throw the stats in front of him and have a look at that.
Because you can't really focus on New South Wales because they played 72 minutes with 12 men.
Exactly.
So they've changed it. They're going to be completely different for Game 2, aren't they?
I reckon they will be.
Yeah. Oh, certainly.
Well, they have to be.
Especially with Moses in there. He's going to run the show as well.
Yeah. And
Latrell back.
And I think this is a much better New South Wales side. Certainly on paper. Will they get to put it into place in the game? Well, only time will tell there, and it will depend on how Queensland take to them. But this New South Wales, I'm not really sure what they had in mind for Game 1, but this one here, Queensland will certainly need to be at their best to chalk up a win.
Well, you spoke about the kicking game, and I was going to ask you, Matt and Gilly, you both played at the MCG, and it's a much bigger ground. Of course, the field of play is the same, but the surrounds are so different. Wally, from your experience, you control the ball so well at Suncorp Stadium. What adjustments did you have to make, for example, when you went to the SCG?
Well, the SCG and the MCG were almost identical. Of course, the cricket grounds, you don't have that understanding. You don't feel like you do here at Suncorp Stadium, where you know exactly where the fields are. You've got to make sure that the first couple of kicks you put in place are certainly around the length of the kick rather than the width and how close you're getting to the sideline. I think I put a couple of balls over the sideline the first time I was at the SCG on the full, and it became quite obvious that I had to learn to get used to that ground in an oval shape rather than the grounds that we play on here. So be interesting to see how both kickers get used to it, but I think it'll be quite interesting. Moses is one of those players. I think he's more a creative player rather than a guy that relies on his skillful kicking. But he certainly will have the same issues as the Queensland kickers.
I reckon they've gone for speed too, haven't they? You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like Dylan Edwards is, quick. Or, Teddy's very quick too. But I mean, Mitchell Moses, I've seen him there on the weekend. I forgot how quick he is, especially over 30, 40 metres.
That try he scored.
Yeah.
That's the best team they've picked for a couple of years.
And
Moses is going to be asking a lot of questions from our Queensland boys. I think Hines is in there. Hines did his job that he could do with 12 men on the field, but Mitch Moses and Jerome Luai, we know what they're like. They're ad-lib footy, always asking questions and keeping you honest. So they've got the team there, and obviously a bit of strike with Latrell too. So, giving him some early ball and letting him do his thing. You know, he looks like he's playing with a lot of confidence at the moment, which is scary for us. But again, we're a team that's built on tough times and showing up for each other as Queenslanders. So we'll do a good job there. But yeah, they're going to be asking a lot of questions, I reckon.
Yeah, and it certainly will be a tough one. It'll be an absolute workathon out on the field. They've got a couple of the best workers in the competition, Cameron Murray and Isaiah Yeo. They'll do half of the work of the forward pack that's required. So Queensland are in for a battle here.
I think looking at Connor Watson too. I think obviously he might give Reece Robson a bit of a spell and be a bit of a jack in the box through the middle, that later half up part of each half. I reckon. So if our boys get a little bit tight in the middle, I reckon he might put him on. So yeah. It'll be look out what's going on there.
Yeah, because I think that's one area Queensland does have an advantage when you've got Ben Hunt and Harry Grant there in 9 and 14 as opposed to Reece Robson and another debutant, Connor Watson. So, you know, the pressure will be on them there. Gene will be joining us very shortly, but I wanted to ask you, Gilly and Matt, your experiences of the MCG. Gilly, one of the wilder nights at the MCG. A few years ago.
Wally reminded me, you know, with my kicking game.
How many did you put out in the full?
What are you laughing at? That was quite funny. You know, because there was mail that from the New South Wales camp, the first bloke you allow at Queenslander, they're going to, you know, bash. So, and that's what Fatty told us before the game. Anyway, I haven't actually asked him if it was really said or not. But
I think I can remember Fatty saying, "Do you reckon they believe me?"
Yeah. Well, you were there at all 3 games, and but it was funny because I remember walking to the first scrum, and you know you could tell it was going to be on. And I remember going to Gavin Allen. You know, he's one of the toughest blokes I played footy with, and Jed doesn't mind a stoush. And I said, what do you reckon, Jed? He said, well, Gilly, we may as well get it on now. And I said, happy days, you know, on the count of 3, yell out Queenslander and come up swinging. So it was funny because I was talking to him the other week, Billy Moore, him and Dave Barnhill, they threw 50 punches and never connected one. Connected, you know. So yeah. But Eddie Ward was the referee, and he called me out. Called us, me and Brad Fittler out, and I got there first. And I said, Eddie, because he was shaking.
He was
shaking, and he thought he lost control. He didn't have control. And anyway, and I got there first, and I said, hey, Eddie, it's all right. No one got hurt. By the way, they started it. And Freddie heard me and said, bullshit, Gilly, you like started it. Anyway, and it was always going to be interesting, that second game. But yeah, I think the MCG, they went off that night. The people were screaming and cheering, and
when they saw the brawl as well, they don't have it in AFL.
No.
There's no such thing as a brawl in AFL, and they see it as very poor promotion. But it was outstanding entertainment to everyone, and they loved it. They absolutely.
I remember they liked too, even the game 1 and that, and I wound Jed up and said, "Mate, you need to give it to Chief, you know, Paul Harrigan," and he said, "Yeah, it would be my pleasure." And so they went at it. And they were headbutting each other, and I could hear him in the scrums, and I'm going, oh, that doesn't sound too good. and Jed come out of the scrum, and his head was all split on the top of his head, and but it was a wild old night that night.
Well, Matt, yours was a bit quiet. We'll ask you a little bit later because Gene's waiting to join us. So let's have a look at that Queensland team once again as we're joined by the Chairman of Selectors, Gene Miles. Yeah, so 1 through 13, the same team that played in Origin 1. The changes on the bench. Felice Kafusi was 18th man. Coming in jersey number 16, Kurt Capel on the bench in 17, and Dane Gagai is the 18th man for game number 2 as we're joined by Chairman of Selectors, Gene Miles. Gene, I thought you could have an easy time, but a couple of injuries and a few changes there heading into game 2. Your thoughts on your side that you've selected?
Well, it's not too often you get the opportunity to run the same side out in consecutive State of Origin game, so we're very fortunate there. And apart from Selwyn has a few leg issues, and he just wanted a bit of time off to address that, so he didn't want to go in there. And that's Billy's policy. We don't take anybody into camp that's in doubt. And Selwyn's, I think he must have aggravated it on Friday night against the Rabbits. So so he was unavailable. And so to counter that, Capes obviously comes into consideration, considering what he has done for Queensland in the past. He's filled that position. He played centre back in the COVID days when they were all locked away, and he did a really good job then. And considering, like, he was a winger coming through the ranks here in Queensland for Ipswich. And then he obviously transitioned into the second row, and he can come on and do a job for us. And he is basically our 17th man that ideally you'd love to take into every game. He can play in the back row. He can slot in any position in the back line as well. So he'll, and then if we don't have any issues out wide, well, Capes can obviously come in, fill in the middle, or on an edge.
Yeah, mate, and obviously you got Dane there too. Like, if anything goes wrong as well, like, and how good's he been for Queensland every time? And Dane Gagai, you just a fair dinkum freak for Queensland. Yeah,
he's done a great job for Queensland over the years. Played 20 odd games, Tosser Turner medal winner, and Gags probably thought this would come as a bit of a surprise for him, but Gags is there, obviously, if we have any issues throughout the week, if we have any training mishaps, or if somebody can't train for some unknown reason, well, he
or
can
game night, as we saw in game one. I mean, you discussed here in our preview the reason behind Selwyn Cobbo. I'm sure you didn't expect to have to implement that after 8 minutes, Gene.
He was probably in the top three players in the game too. Coming on after 6 minutes, which unfortunately took out one of our guns. So that gun now gets his opportunity back in the side, and hopefully we'll see the best of him if they leave his head alone.
But it must be so good though, isn't it? When you know you got a bloke like the Hammer. I mean, how good was he? Oh no, he scored.
Well, anyone could have slotted back there. Hammer was
right.
chosen to slot back there.
Yeah.
Cobbo could have went straight back into that position, but obviously Billy made the right choice there, and Hammer absolutely killed him. 3 tries in Origin, and still wouldn't blow out a match.
Yeah, Hammer, Reece Walsh, and then you throw Kalen Ponga in as well. The future looks pretty bright there. Gene, we've discussed in our review as well, I suppose, looking to nitpick for Queensland, won so well, but up against 12. Billy still has a little bit to work on this week. We've discussed, missed tackles and some errors in that game number one. It wasn't perfect, really, was it?
Absolutely, and he was first to acknowledge that too. He said we can play a hell of a lot better, and they trained a hell of a lot better throughout that week too. And obviously, losing Reece at that early stage, things changed. And as you said, we played a 12-man team, which you're always expected to win at that level, and we did go on and win. However, there's a lot of improvement in us, and going down the MCG is another big challenge. And I never had the pleasure to play that. I know you did, Gilly.
Yeah, we
Matty,
did.
you did.
Yeah.
And talking to Lockie last night, he said actually the first thing he mentioned was long studs. And Billy said he was there only a couple of weeks ago, and it's very, very slippery. So that's obviously, playing on the MCG and having some sort of experience, which we've got Cafoose and one other. Who else played there? Is it DCE? Would it be
DCE, Cherry Evans. Cherry Evans played there.
Cherry?
Yeah, I played with Cherry, yeah.
So, having that little bit of experience, because the field runs a weird way too, doesn't it?
It's an odd...
MCG being an oval and the field. So any little bits of experience we can get up on the Blues, because I don't think they would have a player that has played. 2018 was the last game there.
Yeah, if there's a bonus, I guess that you got a coach that was based down there all of his career, really being able to give some sort of advice to the guys.
Yeah, he mentioned last night he played, I think it was 2015.
It was there.
Yeah. And he played with his busted shoulder.
Yeah,
and he
Bill,
said it's a long, lonely, wide open, lonely place when you've got carrying an injury. And that's hence why he doesn't want to take any injured players into this camp.
Gene, looking ahead to game 2, you have selected the same 13. How important is that that you know that going to camp, those 13 players started in game number 1. New South Wales have got another debutant coming in. They've made changes. Does that give you any advantage there, having that solid 15 really?
Yeah, and they're off to Toowoomba tomorrow for the fan day. So they've done all this routine previously, so that's a slight advantage. Bringing Lukey in and Liero from the Storm, they'll get to witness it for the first time. But all those other guys have well and truly had a number of camps of experience and very familiar too. It's nice to have some familiarity with the first team. The game 1 and game 2, so everything should be pretty simple.
Good to see when it's same horse, different eyebrows. All of those players, the one thing that they certainly do have on board is the trust and faith in each other, Gino, particularly in matches of this importance. And having Billy sort of remind them of the importance of sticking alongside each other. Trust your mates.
Yeah, and it was really pleasing to see. They all went back to their clubs and they all played pretty well. Jaden Searle played really well. Nanai got into some form against the Faders on Friday night. Val himself too had a big game. So
how good's DCE playing at the moment?
Yeah.
He's
incredible.
It's just unbelievable. At his age too as well. Like
he looks fit. Like he's resilient with injuries and stuff like that. Him and Benny Hunt. Sort of remind me of like Cam Smith. He never got injured and they just found ways to keep their body right and keep showing up. And I think those two players there that we're talking about there, who knows when the end is for them.
Yeah, mate, unbelievable. I mean, you don't tear hamstrings when you can't run too quick.
That's
right.
Anything
like that.
They're playing smart. That's what they're doing. They're playing smart.
DCE found some quicksand in the Accor Oval when he took that intercept late in the game, but. He set up our first try, which was just getting out of dummy half. It was brilliant.
That was actually that was pretty easy, wasn't it?
Well, we spoke about that in the review, didn't we? The fact that was 13 on 13, and that was one of the easiest tries of the night. Which alarm bells there for New South Wales before the send off of Swahili.
Yeah, I think the coach will be raising his voice as to how simple that was, and you're not used to seeing. Simple tries like that in Origin footy, they don't. But to get back to the selection process, I think it's outstanding that we've got some guys up front that are enormous performers at Origin. Reuben Cotter and Lindsay Collins. I've been a fan of Lindsay for the last few years, where his performances, where he's led from the front, and the mobility that he displays as a front rower, there's not too often that you get to see thrills of that length.
I was a bit concerned on the weekend because he was very angry on the weekend. I'm thinking, no,
don't you get set off.
Yeah.
Calm down.
He had every reason to be angry. He got tipped on his head there at one stage.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's not good. But, like looking at that team, and we all know sitting around this table that you've got to be so disciplined in State of Origin. You can't give dumbass penalties away. You've got to just do the simple things right, and don't get them
leg ups
and control the ball. Don't go pushing and shoving in tackles where the referee will pinch you. Just those simple things, And once they get a roll on too, and they get a repeat set when they get down the other end. Ultimately they score. So. Being disciplined and no silly stuff. Let the opposition do that, because they're under the pump. Rookie coach going into game 2, they could lose the series. Within 2 games.
Yeah, and Latrell could either be rocks or diamonds in game number 2, but at the moment he's heading towards diamonds, so he'll be dangerous.
Don't poke the bear, Mark. Just leave the bear alone.
2 players that I'm looking forward to seeing. I reckon they'll play better. Not that they played poorly. Please don't take this the wrong way. I reckon Tommy Dearden will be even better than he was in game 1, back-to-back Origin matches, and I reckon Harry Grant didn't play as. He still played well, but I reckon he'll be chomping in the bit to get out there and have a real crack in Melbourne in front of Melbourne fans.
He had a knock on there at one stage from dummy half too, didn't he? Like Harry.
Very un-Harry-like.
Yeah. So I mean, he'll be. Yeah, you're right. Especially in Melbourne, being a Melbourne Storm player, a lot of family and friends there, and that. Yeah, I think. Yeah, look out. Man of the match for mine, Harry Grant.
Yeah. Off the bench.
Yeah.
Well, Gene, done another great job. Good luck for next Wednesday night, and it could be when we speak to you heading into Game 3. It could be for the whitewash. So
Yes, that'd be a beautiful position to be in, wouldn't it?
so
I think what they're basically saying is that if Queensland loses,
Yeah,
it's
it's
the selectors' fault.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time, mate.
Pleasure.
There he is, Chairman of Selectors, Gene Miles, and we will chat with Gene again before Origin 3, but we'll be back for our review after Game 2. The Thursday after Game number 2, join us here on the FOGS Queenslander Podcast for our review of Game number 2. Well, Matt, I don't want to let you go without your memories of the MCG.
Nothing but great memories down there, mate. Got my first try at the MCG off Cherry Evans. But, as we talked about and we've heard about this morning, it's a different feel down there. Obviously not known to rugby league in the area. It's, AFL, but, they're set up off the field and the layout and obviously the big gap between field and the stands, it's always a bit different. But, as in terms of preparation and what you do before the game and your team run and that feel is pretty similar to what you do at any other stadium. But obviously when you run out there, it's you're running, which seems a long way just to get to the field once you get through the tunnel. But again, once that final, once the whistle goes, it's game on. But it takes a little bit of adjusting to get your head around there once you're out there. But again, once the whistle goes and you're out there, you're playing your game, you're getting into the rhythm of things, it all goes, it goes as planned. And it's probably a bit more difficult for your halves and your hookers with your kicking game and things like that. But again, preparation is the same, and you go down there and focus on what you got to do well.
More Queensland support, I think, in Melbourne. Isn't there the New South Wales? Are those Victorians that go want Queensland to win ahead of New South Wales, don't they?
Yeah, they
without a doubt, isn't it?
Yeah. I think when we were asking people about their support, they said, well, we get to hate them too. It's not just you guys. We're neighbours with them as well on the southern side. So it certainly seems as though Queensland won't be short of support in this one.
No, I think they, like New South Wales and Victoria, they like to say they're the number one state and all that, and we're the poor cousins third, but we just sit back and let them go at it. But you're right. Victorians all support Queenslanders. So, I'm like Gillo. It'll be interesting for blokes who don't play on those type of grounds, even though you've played there, a couple of times. When you go back there and you haven't played there for 4 or 5 years, it is foreign to you as well. So, and I remember I was lucky. I was at the Roosters and we played at the SCG a fair bit, and then when we played Origin there, I felt fairly comfortable. You know what I mean? So it does take you a fair while to adjust to those grounds.
Yeah, and the grounds tend to slope away a little bit for the drainage for those cricket grounds as well. Well, gentlemen, as we wrap up, how will Queensland win? What will be the keys to a Queensland victory, Wally? How do you see it going? And Gilly's already said Harry Grant, man of the match. So how do you see Queensland in game number 2?
I see this as a match that Queensland are going to have to dominate up front. They're playing against a New South Wales forward pack that I believe is far better than the one in the opening game of the series. But to get over the top of them, certainly there has to be speed and control in the Queensland front six. Have a look at the guys up front, Reuben Cotter and Lindsay Collins. I know I keep talking about these two guys. Cotter's a guy that I love watching on the field. He increases the speed of the game. He is quite remarkable. Lindsay Collins, it's basically a year since he produced a wonderful performance in one of the Origin matches that had all of his teammates absolutely gobsmacked. And when you have a look at the
himself
three
as well,
himself,
had the back three, Sewer, Nanai, and Carrigan. There's more workers, so certainly the speed of the game and the control is going to be very much in the hands of those guys there. Match them up against the New South Wales six, and you've got a pretty even battle. Again, this is the best New South Wales side I've seen for a couple of years. They've done extremely well with it, so I'm damn sure Billy will dangle a carrot in front of the forwards and just say the control, the outcome of the game will be all about the performance from you guys. And when you have a look at the the class in the Queensland backline, I probably think that we're a little bit ahead there. Again, to be repetitive, I'm looking for a very good game from Tommy Dearden. He's a guy that his support play can be quite extraordinary. In a match of this importance, it has to be.
Gillett?
Yeah, I'm kind of obviously the forwards, but yeah, I'm kind of I'm thinking Val or Hammer, whoever's marked up on Latrell, if they can do a job on him, they'll go a long way to winning the game as well. So depends. Obviously, keep the ball away from that side when you're kicking, so he doesn't have to hit up on the second play, I reckon. So he'll find his front, and our forwards will look after him. But I'm a bit like Waldo. As I said, I think Harry Grant was a little bit quiet for his standards in the first game, and I think he when he comes on, he'll have a huge game. I wouldn't be surprised if Benny Hunt still stays on when he comes on as well. So there might be a little bit of changes around that through the middle. And I'm a bit like Wal too. I'm a huge Reuben Cotter fan. And we know what Lindsay's can do. But yeah, I think our forwards, and I'm with Wal though too. It's a better looking New South Wales side, I think, to go from game one. So we'll have to be on our game. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, obviously back up with the boys. You know, we all know that rugby league is always run through the middle of the park, and you know it's whether your forwards aim up or not. So, but you know, for our forwards to do that, you know, our kick returns and getting out of trouble is going to be very important too. So a bit of speed around that ruck with our men there. You know, it's going to be slippery underfoot, as we know at the MCG. It's a bit of a different feel for some players. So if we can get some speed and generate some quick play the balls through our middle with our tough carries out of trouble, we'll give those forwards a better opportunity to do our job. And I think, again, if you're sitting on the bench playing an Origin match, you've got to come out and make an impact. And I think that's where we can get the upper hand as well. Once our middle forwards get a bit tired and we, you know, send Mo and Harry and Kafusi out there, you know, it's going to make, you know, probably they need to do probably a better job than game one and add some impact there. But, you know, both these benches are, you know, going to come on and make an impact, and hopefully for us, it's a lot better. One
of the most impressive features for me in game one was how Queensland worked their backsides off in the difficult circumstances, the times of the game where it was close to their own line, and how quickly they all volunteered to do the work to cart them to around about the 40-metre mark before they put in the last tackle kick. That to me was something quite extraordinary. Usually you find in tough games when you've managed to stop the opposition, blokes are buggered. They've got the hands on the hips and they're looking around who's going to take the work. But when they're all volunteering it, you know that you've got trust in your mates and you're quite prepared to do the work in the difficult times.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for your time. That's it for our preview of game number 2 of the Origin Series, Queensland against New South Wales in Melbourne. Thank you, Wally Lewis, Trevor Gillmeister and Matt Gillett. I'm Mark Braybrook. It's goodbye for now. We'll see you for our review the Thursday after game 2. Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander Podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.